Let's go! Not over.
Hey, everybody. This is Keith Gleason, host of Mighty... I'm all screwed up.
All fucked up today.
This is not our normal night. Welcome to Indie Comics Relay. I'm your host, Keith Gleason, creator of the Mighty Mascots. With me, as always, is my co-host, Johnny C., creator of Sartana and Surrounded by Death. What's up, buddy? How's it going?
How's it going, man?
Yeah, so we're normally on a Wednesday, but tonight we're Thursday. And why is that, Johnny?
Because I had to go see my wrestling last night, which I did. I was at AEW last night live, which was, we actually have a reference to AEW on our show because we had Dirk Manning on, who did the autobiography comic book of Tony Schiavone, who is the announcer at AEW. Yeah, he calls the matches over there. So
was he there? Was he there last night?
He was there, yeah.
Oh, very cool.
So there was a moment where I wanted to run over to him and be like, hey, I know Dirk. I just want to say hi, whatever. But, like, guy's a busy man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's fun. I saw some of the pictures with you and your dad. That's kind of a cool thing because I know your dad's been having a little bit of health issues, right? And
Yeah.
it was nice
So
that you guys could get out and do that. I didn't know he was a wrestling fan either.
so he really wasn't until pandemic, and then we
Oh,
both
really?
started watching.
No kidding.
And then now he's into it, which was cool. And it's been 2 years since he's been able to get out to do anything because of his heart conditions and all that other stuff. So
right.
I kept him safe. The Agganis Arena was super accommodating in terms of letting him use an elevator and getting him to the seats and making sure he was okay. And we took breaks along the way because he can't walk that far.
Walk
but
like
just but just to have the experience with him was amazing, and he was super
awesome.
into it. He was doing all the chants
and
all the
that's
things,
great.
and it was just fun. It was a good
You're gonna
experience to have.
cherish that memory forever, which is awesome.
That's originally I was supposed to go with a coworker, and then he canceled, and I kind of saw it as a blessing in disguise to bring my dad, and I thought that was like. It's a priceless moment for me.
No, that's great, dude. I love it. So hey, let's say you're low to the chat tonight. I know we have a packed house, so
we have a packed house, so we should keep it expedited.
Definitely speed things up and get our guests in here tonight. So we got
a lot of guests.
Arts Mermaid with us. Hello.
Howdy. Arts Mermaid's been on before.
Kevin P. Yeah, was she the one of the ones that was one of the
previous comic book school. Yep, that's right.
Kevin 41, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for hanging out.
Ara, as always, what's up, buddy?
Good to see you as always for being here, man. We love having you.
What is that? Drax
Gal Art. Awesome. I like Drax. I like girls. That's a win.
I like art, right?
I like art. Yeah.
Ara says sorry he missed us at the Monster Expo. Life got in the way. It's all right, dude.
That happens, buddy. Don't
totally
even
understand.
That.
We'll see.
We always see you here on a Wednesday or a Thursday night, anyway. So
right.
We appreciate that the most.
Yeah, we'll see you at another show. Definitely.
For sure,
me and Johnny
man.
get around. Of course, my beautiful wife in the audience. Hey, Amy, how you doing?
Thanks for hanging out, Amy.
Yeah, thanks. As always, sharing the
links and
sharing the links.
Being our diligent foot soldier in the chat.
Yeah, right. And of course, Buddy. That's a good sign.
Buddy,
who we got tonight's for guests. One other thing I want to share really quick, because I know Pete will kill me if I don't.
Yeah. Well, the campaign.
I want to share the campaign really quick, dude. Look at this.
26K over. Wow.
Over 600 backers. This is a record for Alterna.
Wild.
For everybody that doesn't know, this campaign's still in demand until the books go to print, which is a couple weeks. So you can still back it. This is how Alterna is circumventing Diamond Comics. We're no longer with Diamond, so we're going right direct to the readers. And they're going to be a new campaign every quarter. So the next one is going to be in the winter.
It's a clever move, right?
I think so. And you get about 8 to 10 books every season. So that's how they're doing monthly books now. It's going to be quarterly, and they go right to your door. So, and then the other cool thing I want to highlight is it also the start of the Alterna trading card collection. So every campaign, they're going to add 1 or 2 trading cards. So 2 years from now, you're going to have like 50 cards in this set, so it's going to be great. And he's putting all kinds of power levels on the back so that we can do what if Boxer Bear goes against Red Koi here, So kind of cool to have all those stats. And
that's
stuff,
like the Marvel cards from back in the day. And if you're an Alterna fan and you love a lot of their books, like I know some of the people in the chat are, this is like where you want to be. This is step one. This is the Iron Man of the MCU, right? This is the first chapter in that campaign sequence where you can collect all those cards and you can get all of the the hottest Alterna books in one shot, right?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And then, like I said, the reason I'm promoting it so hard is my book, Mighty Mascots, is here. Number 4 is if you missed my
recommended.
Campaign, thanks, buddy. So so check it out. It's kind of a cool new way to sell comics, indie comics, especially,
For sure. That's
all right.
Right now.
Yeah, definitely. Let me just see if there's any other things in the chat before I bring. My wife said Pete was showing off the alternate trading cards this morning. There's going to be some reprints of the cards. Oh, okay. Some of the reprints will be super rare. Yeah, this looks good. So, all right,
Cool.
let's start bringing
No
in
further
our guests.
ado.
Yeah. We'll start with the great Buddy Scalera. Buddy, thanks for joining
how
us.
we doing? Looks
good to see you.
Well, you said the great. I figured maybe there was a different one that you were thinking of.
Not at all. And let me bring
Thank
in
you
the
for
rest
taking the
of your
time to
group
come
here.
on, buddy. We appreciate it, my man.
We got Allie. D-Alley? D-Alley, is that how we should say it, or?
Yeah, that works. D-Alley or the
D-Alley.
redheaded Ed. Buddy calls me like 8 different things. I answer to Irish, Red, D-Alley. You know, just say some names.
I've always said D or Red.
Yeah, right. And another returning guest, Mr. Chris Burgos. How's it going, buddy?
Okay.
Man.
Yeah, I'm good with Chris. If you want, just don't call me Sally.
Okay.
Fair enough.
And then a new person I haven't met before, Kevin. Thanks for joining us, Kevin. Good to have you, man.
I was lucky enough to see the majority of these individuals at New York Comic Con a couple weekends ago. Yeah,
that's
right.
Connection. As
I
a matter
was
of fact,
talking
I
to
think
him-
I explicitly said, Kevin came up, introduced himself to me, and I go, I think we got to get this guy on the show. And sure enough, here we are.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about the comic book school and the new anthology and everything. But yeah, we were talking in the green room about New York Comic Con. Did you guys all have a good experience there this year? Overall, were you guys all there?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed it purely because it felt like a throwback convention. I believe when we were talking earlier, you said it felt like it was like 2011 or something. I felt like it had. I think it had a little bit more of that old school feel where it was definitely more comic centric, which I definitely appreciated. And I think the Artist Alley definitely ran with that because Artist Alley was definitely pumping with a lot of fans, a lot of traffic down there. The main exhibit floor. I mean, it's real hard to have a comic convention without your Marvel and your DC and your Image and all that.
But I felt like the indies stepped up big time. Like
indies definitely stepped up, but they were filling up the space a little bit with like some random stuff. Like, I mean, there was like that one giant wrestling ring in the middle.
Yeah, that was a little odd.
Floor.
I thought too.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the cross fans from both or whatnot, but still, it's like a giant wrestling ring. I want to see some action, not a table in the middle with people like waving.
Yeah.
And there was a couple guys up there at one point that they looked just like models. Like I was like, are you gonna fight? Or are you
right.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they were actually wrestlers there.
I don't think they
the
were.
wrestling ring.
The wrestlers were there like during the weekend. They weren't there
Were they?
on
I
like
never see
Thursday and Friday.
But were they related to the guys that had the ring there, or were they just like the AEW wrestlers, the WWE wrestlers?
that
I
had their
think they
own
were just.
No,
I think they were just
Yeah, I don't think so.
AEW, WWE. Like I don't think they had any affiliation.
right.
It's bad marketing too, because if
They
you
were
think
just like,
about
"Yo,
it, none of us
bro,
know
come
what it
check
was
out our
about,
ring."
right?
Right.
Yeah,
we
like
knew it was a wrestling ring, but
it was
we
just
don't know much more about that.
random to see that because like for me, I went to NYCC on Thursday, and it was my first time back in over a decade, and for me, it was weird to not see like the Marvel, DC, IDW, like, but also too, back when I went, I was only there for the manga and the anime. So this was my first time going back where both of those were separated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was really different.
Yeah, that's
Because-
one thing I could say too. You could see manga and anime really was taking over a lot too upstairs. I'm seeing that I'm seeing that at Barnes and Nobles too. I don't know if you guys have been in a Barnes and Noble lately, but the graphic novels are getting smaller and the manga is getting huger, which is interesting.
But indie comics were alive and well in Artist
They were.
Alley. Let me tell
Yeah,
you.
they were.
They were.
I don't know about
They
your guys'
definitely
table,
were.
but me and Jeff did great. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to.
Jeff came over and visited us every day, and every day he looked a little bit more tired. I'm sorry, Jeff, you did. It was like by the time we were leaving, I thought you'd be crawling. Every day the cup of coffee got a little bit bigger, and every day was like.
Yep, that's New York.
Well, that's why I wasn't there on Sunday at all, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
So tell me a little bit about this year's anthology. I know you guys do one every year, right? That's the whole drive behind the comic book school. Is that correct,
Well,
Buddy?
it's one of the many things that we offer now. There's lots of things Comic Book School does. The anthology is a new one, so we're on our second issue.
Okay.
Last year we started it. Buddy basically challenged me to get my shit together, which working on it. And we put together this 8-page challenge, which we put out to the community, and a lot of people signed up and said, yeah, we totally want to do this. And then we had all these comics and we're like, well, we might as well publish them. So we made a free digital download. It's 144 pages called Panel 1 Creator Connections, because that's where it grew out of. It's one of Buddy's panels from New York Comic Con. And when we finished that one, everybody was like, great, when are we doing the next one? And I was like, shit, give me a month. So we took a month off, and then we kind of regrouped, and it was Buddy and myself and Ari. Rob also stepped in sometimes, Rob Anderson. And then the second time around, Chris stepped up to the production team, and we did a whole nother one on another 144 pages, which we released at Comic-Con. Again, free digital download on the site, comicbookschool.com. So
awesome. Yeah, I just shared the link out. Someone was Ara was actually asking where he could buy it, so I just sent them the link to download. Are you guys going to actually sell copies eventually, or no?
We're trying to get them printed right now.
Okay.
And hopefully have them for next year's con circuit.
Cool.
And then we'll start, issue number 3 next year as well.
Very
so
cool.
We'll just keep doing it.
Cool.
As long as people keep wanting to do it, we'll keep doing it. So.
Awesome.
Well, it seemed like you guys had a bigger crew the second time around. Am I right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think it might have been a little bit more like different type of crew, like because of like the whole people trying to go back outdoors, trying to get their lives back together. COVID was kind of calmer this year, but at the same time, not. And people had cabin fever, and they're just antsy to go outside. So we had people that instead of having I think last time we had 14 or 13 comic stories and 3 prose flash fiction stories. This year it's more like 11 prose flash fiction and 8 comic stories. But so it was a different overall, it's a different overall book in my opinion, but it's more balanced. And I definitely think that the story is totally kick-ass this time around. Just as much as last year.
Yeah, of course. I think a lot of what you guys probably did this time around came from hindsight of the last time, right? Did you guys not just lay out everything and say, hey, this worked, this didn't, let's maybe focus more on this, or maybe let's give more opportunity to people this way? Could you talk a little bit more about that? Just the differences between the two in that regard?
I love that you think that we did that. I put on my project manager hat, and we did some of that. But a lot of it is just who shows up, it wasn't always the same people. So we had more people on the website side. We had more people in the forums, but we had a different group of people doing different things. So whereas Buddy, Rob, Ari, and I all took our learnings from last year as far as the editorial crew. Chris was new to the editorial crew. We had new creators coming in that hadn't worked on the anthology before. So some of it is, we tried this last year. Let's try it this year and see if it works. The theme was a new thing that we did. Buddy came up with a theme, and so we tried that. We liked that a lot. There was some back and forth about that. Some people did not like being restricted to a theme. But overall, we think it was more of a challenge to the writers to say, hey, let's try and make this work and see if you can get your creative juices flowing that way. So there were things that we learned. I think there were a couple of things that we stepped back on that maybe we shouldn't have, communication-wise, because communication is so crazy now with COVID last year and then COVID this year, and who knows what it's going to be like next year.
Yeah.
So it's always, always learning.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, so did you guys have more participants this year than the previous year? creators and things like that, or
It's
Or
about
was
the
it
same. I
harder to
think
filter
Yeah.
through from last time? Would you
Okay.
say?
We did have several people come again and submit more stories. A couple people used similar or the same IP that they had before. Some
cool.
people came up with new stories. But we still had a lot of new people, a lot of new faces. And some people did things that they hadn't done before. Like Chris this year also did a prose piece, which he did not do last year. So,
very cool.
and Kevin, who has always helped out on the site and in the back end, submitted a flash fiction this year as well. So,
Yep.
you know,
Awesome.
we kind of are shifting people around, getting people to experience all the different sides of making the comics and producing them. So
I was
Yeah,
going to
very
ask
cool.
Kevin. This is the first time you actually had something submitted, right? If to
Yeah.
clarify,
Yeah.
could you
so,
talk about that experience just as a first timer in that regard?
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of shot myself in the foot.
Tell us more.
So basically, like Dee said, I do a lot of the back end work. I help set up the forums. I kind of helped kind of put like the live stream stuff together for comic book school. But
Very cool.
I was supposed to submit something for the first anthology. Timing didn't work out for me because I realized that halfway through the whole process, I was going to be gone for 2.5 months. So I was creating my story and everything. I had an editor. I was starting to put everything together. And then I was like, crap, it's May. I leave for New Jersey in 2 weeks for staff training at my sleepaway camp that I dearly love. And I was like, I'm not going to have any internet service. So I can't talk to my team. I can't do any of that. So then I was like, all right, I'm pulling the plug. I don't care. I'm stressing my own self out over trying to get an 8-pager done, pack for camp, write lesson plans. And then COVID hit.
Yep.
So my entire camp plan that I had went out the window.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I kind of fell into like kind of like a depressive episode because I was looking forward to camp. I had kids from all over the country, all over the world asking if I was going back, what was going on. And I was like, I don't know. I have no answers.
I think it's nuts that there's still sleepaway camps. That's awesome.
So,
right?
I mean,
I've seen that movie.
we couldn't.
too.
Yeah.
we couldn't do it for 2020, which broke my heart, broke thousands of kids' hearts and staff members from all over the world. So then I kind of was like, all right, I have to fall back into comic book school. So I kind of was like, all right, pull myself up by the bootstraps. Let's get cracking. I got tech I can work on. Let's do this. So then this year, same thing happened. I came into the anthology being like, I'm going to submit something. I'm going to do it. I started working on an 8-pager. So close to finishing that. Again, camp. This year, I actually went. I did all of that. Again, same thing. No cell service, no internet, no nothing. So I was like, if I want to talk to my team, I'm going to have to stay up until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when no one's on the camp internet so I can start talking to people. But then that means I only get 3 hours of sleep. I'm not doing that. I'm not risking that. So I just wrote a quick 1-pager called Riley's Journey, which I actually submitted this year. So that IP is now out in the world, which feels really weird to say.
It's good,
It
man.
feels
It's
great,
good.
though,
Just
right?
accept it. Accept it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
it must feel-
I know.
it's great.
I'm just saying, from coming from someone who's been both on the reader side and the retailer side, to now be like, I have my first published work. is weird for me to like even imagine right now, because it's like it hasn't set in yet, you know.
Weird in a good way, though, right? Weird in a
No,
good
yeah,
a
yeah,
good
definitely.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I've honestly creating my own IP, creating these characters, like, I mean, they're based off of two of my very good friends who graciously let me make two characters based off of them.
Very cool.
And they're gonna go into a whole another world with an 8-pager that I'm working on. Plus, I'm also making a longer prose
Cool. So you're going to keep them
project.
going with like more stories that you're going to do for
Yeah.
for more anthologies, I would say, for the
Talk
comic
about a
book stuff.
launchpad opportunity, though, right? And like that's a great example of you kind of like being restricted, kind of finding a lot of obstacles along your way, but overcoming, making something work, and now flourishing. Like, you know, for you, buddy, specifically, I'm sure it's so gratifying to see a lot of, you know, your mastermind, like in terms of bringing everybody together and then seeing the product of that work through Kevin talking about it. I'm sure that must be wildly gratifying for you.
Yeah, let's just go back to Mastermind. I was good there. You didn't. You know, Johnny. See, I think the important thing is that comic book school is evolving and it is becoming what it needs to be. You know, in the beginning, when you guys were talking about your books, it really resonated with me because what we want to try to do is build this community spirit. Comics is a very friendly, very welcoming business, but we all tend to work alone.
Yes.
And you know, we only get so far, and you see talented people fall to the wayside. But you know, our motto is: if you want to go faster, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. And we've determined that going together will get us further. So the first anthology was a bit of a fluke, but then we realized that we had created this community of people. You know, Chris, who had contributed to the first one and the second one, Dee, who had intended to contribute and actually was the starting point for it, actually invested herself in learning about editing. You know, Kevin came in from a different direction, literally met him on social media. So, you know, when we think about this, everybody's getting different types of experience. Like Chris got the experience of being a project lead on a remote project, herding all these people together. Chris, talk about what you learned as doing something different than writing. Like what was your takeaway?
You know what? It was awesome because normally when I'm doing my own works or whatnot, I have to deal with a single artist. I have to deal. I'm my own letterer right now. I haven't really hired any letterers, and I've worked with an artist and I've worked with a colorist on separate terms or whatnot. Whereas like that's two people.
Yeah.
Just planning and getting like D had this schedule set up for last year's anthology.
With Buddy's help, but yeah.
To coincide with Buddy's you know, teaching process. And it was a really awesome backbone.
I think the word was mastermind.
Oh, yeah, mastermind, right?
Yeah, throw it out there,
So,
Johnny. We're never going to hear the end of that.
Never. That's okay.
You're welcome.
Wait until he sees that podcast we did the other day. All right, so but yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like I was dealing with one person, and then I move on to now I'm dealing with 30 plus creators. All right, and if I was very fortunate that I had this backbone from the previous anthology to work with, because I had to come up with like the schedule and everything for this one, and herding cats I think might have been a little easier because like it's one thing when you're dealing with 30 creators and they're all sitting in front of you. Maybe I'm an MMA instructor. I have to deal with 30 students on the floor at a time, and I can kind of get along with that because everyone's right in front of me. But then having to do that where people are literally across the planet, like we're dealing with creators. Jared Elvin is from Australia. Evan Scale is over in Greece. One of my artists, Roy, he's in the Philippines. Another one of my artists, Jock, he's in Argentina. So
Jeez.
like that's just 4 creators, and then it's like everyone else that's local, but it's like just a couple hours time difference between New York and LA, and the scheduling and the working with people is something that's really gratifying at the end when it's done. Because then it's like, then you can say, I did it. Yay!
Yeah.
But
I think it teaches you skills too, valuable skills of dealing with, not just
skills,
creators, but now like when you go to a convention now, you're going to be able to take that, like that skill of just talking to people and help you, move your book. You know what I mean? Like just, just one of those little things. It's like I work in customer service as my day job, and like I feel like that skill follows me to conventions, and also just dealing with presses and my artists and my colorists, things like that too. Actually it helps me a lot with running my convention, like just dealing with vendors and problems that come up. So it's those skills that you bring to other things, I think. Would that be sort of what you were trying to do with this, buddy? Like trying to put them into different positions where they can kind of experience something else?
To me, it's the motto is the craft and business of making comics, and you can really hone your craft and still never put out a book.
Right.
This is a business. Yeah. This is not just art for art's sake. This is a commercial art. And years ago, and Johnny, you used to go to the old panels. In my earliest, very first New York Comic Con, I was asking artists to explain their process, and a lot of people doing this and explaining them. It was boring, and I gave Sean Chen a marker. Just show us what that looks like. And then that was born, this experiential learning. It made me realize, it's all about the experience. That is the way it works. And throwing Chris into the deep end, that's it. He knows how to do it. Erin is now literally the person who has been doing it the most. And I mean, it's just, now she knows how to do it. And they're employable in the comic book business now in other ways.
Yes. Yeah, right? You're right.
This gives them other employment opportunities, and that's an important element that I believe makes our individuals more marketable. And the goal is to see them go off to careers where they really are earning their living in comics.
Yep.
Masterminds.
Yeah.
Mastermind. He's got it.
As a mastermind. Is it true that you masterminded the closing of Sleepaway Camp so that Kevin would get a story?
Yeah. It was a Mr. Glass scenario.
I swear, buddy, if you did that, I'm out of comic book school. I'm gone.
So one postscript I did want to mention, though, is that Chris, we actually had you on the show before for Tales Beyond.
Yeah.
Did Tales Beyond launch in between the anthologies? Or
yes.
It did.
Yeah, it did.
So would you say there's things from the anthology that helped you launch Tales Beyond?
Oh, totally. Hands down.
Talk more about that.
And it like first of all, my experience with PR in general. I can thank Ari, our AA, setting up any of these interviews or podcasts or anything. I've become more confident talking to people. I've also been more confident as far as reaching out to podcasters or people who've run their own shows or whatnot, just to say, hey, I've got this product out. And that's one of those things where I never would have done it. I would have been like, okay, how do I sell my comic? I got to go to Comic-Con and get a table and just sit there and try to, even at Comic-Con this year, Buddy was like, okay, guys, we got to sell these books. Come on, get out there in the aisle, start hustling. And I mean, seriously, it was a kick in the ass that I needed. And it's like, okay, the moment Buddy did that, I sold like 5 more books within the next hour. And the best part about it is that Buddy has his experience as a professional creative. He sells his own books and everything, but he wants to kick you in the ass to get you to do it yourself also. And I'm really thankful for Comic Book School because they've taught me PR. They've taught me sales. They've taught me how to
Deadlines, how to hit
deadline,
deadlines.
put together my own books, make sure that I'm on point as far as like what did I forget or miss, or social media I got to hit and everything too.
Detail oriented. The words are detail oriented.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's so
And that's why
amazing.
D makes the big bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you find
it's-
those big
it's
bucks,
awesome.
Johnny, you let me know.
But yeah, it's great because being able to build Tales Beyond and do it alongside my time, with comic book school, it's kind of like I'm building my own business while at the same time still learning the whole time, and it just goes hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's making my my own business more practical and making it function better, and it's
Talk about
awesome.
a lot of work, though. I mean, did you ever feel yourself overwhelmed by taking so much on in between?
Oh, I cried like 30 minutes ago. I was in tears. It was bad. It was, I had a
If
full
Chris
ugly
hadn't
face.
joined the team this year, we wouldn't
Yeah.
have had an anthology because Ari and I were up to our eyeballs, and we were like, "Buddy," and he's like, "Me too," and we were like, "Oh no, we need another set of hands." And Chris was like, "Hey guys, what are you doing?" And we were like, "Yes, here." And he was like, "Okay, I'm doing this now." So
I remember when you guys were asking for a project manager, and they're like, "Okay, we need someone who's good. We need someone that's actually going to put their foot down and do things." And I'm like I'm sitting in my kitchen or standing in my kitchen. I just gotten home from work. I was on this phone call or web call or whatever, and I'm watching on my iPad, and I'm like, "Oh, I can maybe do that. Oh sure. I'll volunteer." Sold! Take it! He's got it! It's on you!
He bit the trap. We got him.
did.
yeah,
He's like,
he's like, "Said it, no takes backsies."
Yeah.
I mean, the way
Accurate.
Buddy normally puts these kinds of things out is you can either volunteer yourself or be voluntold.
Yeah,
And if you're
voluntold.
voluntold, you can't say no to it because you have no way of getting out of it.
He's
So if you
Mastermind,
think you're
what
the
they
right
say.
person for it or not, like, you have to figure that out quick.
He made you an
And that's
offer you
good,
couldn't
though.
refuse.
yeah.
I think creators
Yeah.
need that though. I really do. Like because I've
But to
seen a
be
lot
fair,
of
it does give you that kick in the ass. Like for
Yeah,
those
I
people
mean,
who are
it's-
Oh,
in,
yeah.
in a community
know
on
artists,
a call
you-
going, well, I really want you to do this for me, and I really want you to publish my stuff, but I don't really want to actually like go to a meeting or
right.
and I don't
want to put
want
the
to have to
work
look
in.
at somebody else's stuff. It's like, no. If you come to the community, be part of the community. Like,
My
and if
wife
you don't want
is
to do
his
that,
buddy Italian.
yeah, he really,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
You'll see that as he
Like,
talks.
what's the matter for you? Why you no making the comic book? Eh? I can say that because I'm Italian too, buddy.
Yeah.
Johnny, this is how instructions are given in my house. We're like,
Yeah, like this. Magagazzi,
You know,
goodbye.
I think-
Oh.
I think the important thing that everybody here, and I think starting with Steve more than anybody to begin it, is I forget who told me this, but if you love drawing unicorns, you will draw the best unicorns ever. But then if somebody asks you to draw a locomotive, you're not going to be able to do it. So comic book school gets people out of their comfort zone,
Yeah, that's good.
and
For
much of our careers as professionals in anything, not just in comics, is getting out of our own comfort zone. And for me and Dee, there was a point where both of us are completely different types of project people, and we just agreed. And in the first one, and you remember this, Dee, I said we're going to do it sloppy, and we're going to admit to people that we literally just started running forward, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes people have this failure to launch because they spend so much time trying to set the perfect table, and a year has passed by and nothing has happened. And year after year, I would see Chris, like, what'd you work on since last year? Not necessarily you, Dee, but like Ari and Chris.
Oh no,
Like, what'd you work
that
on
is me though, and that's
since
why it
last
works
year?
so well.
So you just have to sometimes go, all right, I'm going to let go. I'm going to surrender to this. And I think the other element of this, and it's not just the anthology, it's the learning mindset. I brought up Sean Chen and Jerry Ordway would draw, and my editor from Marvel would come, and I think a lot of these people have a lot to offer. But because I'm a peer, because I am still a working writer, I don't do a lot, but I've done enough where they'll come and they'll join and we'll have a mature professional conversation. We turn on the camera and we just let people talk like you're doing here. You know what? We're not at a panel where I have to keep cutting people off. You give people a time to share their thoughts. And in the case where they have to pick up a magic marker, they do what they do. I had an editor when I was at Wizard who said, and he was a music journalist, but I think a lot of it is the same way with comics journalism and comics education, that music journalism is like dancing to architecture. Just makes no sense. You can't do an interpretive dance about architecture, and you can't verbally explain comics. You just have to do them, and then one day you wake up and you go, "Oh, I get it now."
Yeah,
And that
no, I
was the
agree
idea.
with that. There's not really anything they can teach you different things, but it's like comics is you just got to get it, I guess.
Well, and also comics have a different connotation for different people across different generations. You say comics to one person and they think of the funny pages on the back of the newspaper. You say comics to another person, they think webtoons. You say comics to me and I think of the traditional floppies. You say comics to another person and they're collecting only trade, graphic novels, trade paperbacks.
Then there's
So
also
there's a lot of variety there.
Then there's also the people that will say, like you look at Neil Gaiman, that his Sandman run or whatever, those are comics. But then you look at Archie and they're like, oh, those are cheap, whatever. They're not really comics. It's like, no, they're comics.
Yeah.
And then you look at like the single panel stuff, like come on, black and white.
Like
funny
comic strips.
Far Side. Thank you. That's what.
Far Side, yeah.
You look at the Far Side comics. It's like, well, are they? And it's like, yes, they're comics.
So I've always had the conversation that Watchmen being on the Time 100 top 100 list for literature justifies comics to the common individual who wouldn't normally consider them literature. But then it also creates this divisive mentality that there's comics, like you said, and comics, and actually no. Your indie book on one hand is no different than Watchmen on the other. It's just the way it was marketed, the way it was released, the way it was put together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Listen, if Renaissance artists could paint two pictures, one of a complete nude and one completely clothed for their client,
that's a story.
Say, hey, this is high art, but they were doing porn off the side with prints and everything else. Everything can be high art. It's just a matter of how you interpret it. Like there's comics that appeal to people on a level of literature, right? Like this is the best, right? But if you do it well enough, who cares what content is in there? If the story is good, if the characters are there, if it's appealing to people and they want to read it, that makes it good.
Yeah, home run.
That's really funny because I actually got into kind of like an argument with one of my students. I want to say a couple of years ago. Basically, I was saying that Jeff Smith's Bone was every bit as good as Lord of the Rings or some like Pride and Prejudice or something like that. I'm like, no, Bone is a masterpiece. Yeah. And it's just because it's a comic book does not mean, and just because it starts off at a kid's comic level, I mean, doesn't mean that you should knock it, because its story grows up as the story gets told, and it's that's awesome. So it's like, no, you can make the comparisons if you want, but be prepared, because comics are not a slouch as far as literature goes.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, sure. And I like the point about just it's in your, I guess comics are in your blood, your DNA. If you get them, you only get it, like Buddy was saying, if you do it. Like you gotta just take that step, you know what I mean, and just do it. Because I went for 1 year at the Kubert School, and all they teach you is deadlines, and almost, I would imagine it's almost the same stuff that Buddy's teaching you guys, which it's everything but almost the art. You know,
There's two differences that I've seen, and I haven't been to the Kubrick School. I've been to a couple of their panels, and I've met a couple of their students. But like from what I see, there's two main differences between what we do at Comic Book School and what they do. What we do is we don't charge you.
It's free.
Comic Book School is all free. Because like Buddy always says, there shouldn't be a barrier to entry. You shouldn't have to, be in debt for the rest of your life to make comics, right? Yep. The second thing is, while we're teaching you deadlines and follow-up and communication and connections and networking, we're doing it in a way that we're doing it with you. We're not sitting behind a desk. To be fair, we're on a Zoom call, but we're not sitting on some long forgotten thing saying, I know best, and I'm going to tell you what to do. We're saying, hey, this is how I did it. This is how all of our friends are doing it. Maybe you can take some of these and try it for yourself and see how it works. When you're done, come back and tell us how it went, because we'd love to know. Maybe there are new people on digital platforms that we haven't used that we'd like to know how they interact. Maybe you'd like to know how we were doing it traditionally for, the contacts that we have. And so being in that community, it gives a lot more feedback. And I feel like you get more out of it than just sitting in a classroom and taking notes and getting graded on what you've drawn. There's a million tutorials. There's a million schools that'll teach you how to draw, teach you how to color, teach you how to write. You can get those resources, and you can get some of them here from Comic Book School and from other places where we network. But at the same time, you're not going to learn to make those connections and to network and to follow up from behind a desk, from behind a school desk. It's not the same mentality.
No, I like that. So has there, since we last talked to you guys, which was probably almost a year ago at this point, has there been any changes with the Comic Book School itself? Have you guys done anything new, anything different?
We own Tuesdays.
we own. What do you mean by that, Chris?
But Buddy has this. He used to bring on like guests onto his the YouTube channel that.
So now is that something new? Like, did you guys have a YouTube channel last time? I don't remember.
No,
not really.
It's funny. My earliest thing when I was breaking into comics, I did this TV show on cable access. Called Comic Book School.
Oh, very cool.
And it was just this weird fluke. And I had started it before I got to Wizard. And then once I got to Wizard, I was connected to all these people. And then I had Wizard editors coming on. And then I started having comic pros come on. And the show ran for about 4.5 years.
No kidding. What city was this?
Just in New Jersey. It was just in northern New Jersey. Yeah, God bless you. And, as we were thinking about what would we want to do? I've always had this dream of doing foundational learning, but I also, like you, Keith and Johnny, I kind of a talk show host.
Yeah.
So as long as it stays focused on education, we thought it would be good. But Rob Anderson made a great point, which is, if you have a show like Saturday Night Live, or what people are expecting on any given day, well, then they'll start to tune in. So as Chris noted, we just decided we're gonna own Tuesday night. That's it. We're just gonna be on every Tuesday night, and it's been a good learning experience. And in addition to the YouTube channel, I think we've grown. I mean, just about everything that I did was live event or my books or my photo reference books. But now we decided, okay, well, how do we evolve this into something that it is it's an ongoing experience. At some point somebody will be a breakout talent, and I believe that will help accelerate everybody and it will elevate everybody. But in the meantime, people are just building those relationships, and the relationships that I built when I was very junior breaking into this business became my paying gigs. Darren Sanchez and Mike Martz and some of these other people who I was there with became my editors at the publishing companies, Brian Cunningham at DC. These guys then gave me paying work, and we all rose together. And I think that that's the important part, which is rising together.
Yeah.
And that's a Rob Anderson thing I should give. Rob Anderson. We rise together.
I think big shout out to Rob Anderson, who's not here. Big shout out to Ari Rubin, who's not here, but all very proactive members for Comic Book School, and they should definitely deserve a shout out.
But I think that's what an anthology does best too, right? I mean, it highlights everybody,
Yeah.
And you get like a couple strong stories in there, but everybody else, I know when I pick up an anthology, I read it from cover to cover. So, but imagine I'm not the only one that does that.
It was about completion.
Yeah.
I think people brought the best quality they could bring, and I think that Ari, Aaron, and Chris really pushed people to do their best work. But what we wanted to do was give people that experience. Somebody like a Kevin who wanted to have that experience. I mean, he did nice work. If he didn't do nice work, we still would have published it. The key was for us is
To
giving
finish
people
it.
that first, see what that experience is like. And, when we're kids, when we're little and we draw something really crappy and our mother puts it on the refrigerator with a magnet and your mom's like, what's that? And you're like, oh, that's you, mom. And, oh, that's me. Thank you. And you put it there, right? As kids, we celebrate completion. As adults, we begin to censor ourselves. We say, well, it's not good enough. It needs to be better. I'm going to hold this until it's better. And that's really a big mistake because we say, well, I'm not that good. And even like our YouTube channel. Okay, you watch the first few episodes, we stumble around. I still can't find the buttons to make people like to bring graphics up, but like eventually it'll get better. But if we wait until we're perfect, then we'll never do anything. So
right. Our first shows were a disaster.
Oh God.
No, but
That's
look at
kind
you're
of how-
tight now though.
That's
But
kind
you're
of how I
tight
described
now.
the first anthology was, I was like, well, we don't have a plan. Like, we have a schedule, but we really don't have a plan. But he's like, we don't need a plan. We're just going to go. And I was like,
Yeah, that's what you got to do.
but it's like,
That's why I love
my
Buddy.
old boss
Buddy
used to say,
gets
it's
right
like
in there.
building the plane while you're flying it.
Yeah.
Isn't that the mastermind thing?
Trial,
I mean,
and that's
trial
really
by
what
fire.
mastermind thing to
I'm
do,
all
right?
It's the
about that.
mastermind thing to do. Do it on the fly.
Yeah.
But it works.
I mean,
it works.
going-
You can't argue with the results,
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I think.
I mean-
Well,
it
and
works.
luckily we didn't crash and burn, right? We're still
So-
going. So
Yeah.
something must be working.
I love the fact that you guys have it's not just like Congress School isn't just the anthology. It's genuinely a community.
Yeah.
And
sure.
I love that you guys have built that and you have proof that the product works by having this anthology. It's not elitist at all. It's very inclusive. And, you're basically sharpening talent, like just through the pages of the process of doing it. And I think that's wonderful. You know what I mean? You guys, and a lot of it, I reflect basically upon having previously, we were trying to work with the Creator Aftercon network and doing an anthology, and every way we failed, you guys succeeded. And I'd love to see that methodology that we tried to do there worked here the way it should have.
Well, I'm happy to compare notes whenever you want, Johnny.
Johnny, one of the things, they talk about flying the plane, and it's a good analogy. But a couple times I told D, don't worry about it. They're not paying for it. They got what they paid for. They downloaded it. They got to see some new talent, and it worked. Johnny, the other thing that we also say, and this drives Aaron crazy, but that's just because we're different personalities. I pretty much, and this is, I think Chris Burgos works very similar to me, which is why we kind of get off. I shoot an arrow straight up in the air, and then wherever it lands, I paint a bullseye around it. I'm like, yeah, we did it.
There you go. Yeah, right? That's a very Captain Kirk thing to do, buddy. That's manipulating the Kobayashi Maru to your favor. Of course. So I love that.
Everyone's like, what are we doing? Where are we going? How do we know if we're successful? I'm like,
you have an arrow. Where's the target? He's like, I'll get there. And I'm like, what are you doing?
The whole world is the target, D.
This is entirely
arrow lands, you win.
I can see it all now. It's just Buddy standing there, Aaron standing there. There you got the whole world in front of him. Buddy just hands her a blindfold and says, let's do it.
Yeah. You just gotta let go.
Pretty much.
You just gotta let go.
And 20 minutes later, he goes, where are we? And I go, I don't know. I can't see.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
You gotta let go.
It doesn't matter because we're going.
Look at your show. Look at Indie Comics Relay. I mean, if you fretted over everything being perfect and the backgrounds, you know what? That's not what people want. People want real conversation. They want real people, right? You think, you know what? It's better to then practice and get better. You do 10 episodes, 20 episodes. You guys have a really big following. And if people are not following you, they should click follow because you do this all the time.
Thank you.
This is
Thanks.
this is good. This is real, right? You let people talk. You don't just focus on the big names. I think it's an important contribution to the ecosystem of what we all are passionate about.
Yeah, definitely. And like, and me and Johnny, we love, like, we start talking off, you know, we have certain questions we always ask creators and everything, but like, I love when the show goes into these weird tangents. I think that's when the show becomes the realest. Wouldn't you say, Johnny? Like,
that's true. Yeah, no, for real.
yeah.
I think you know, we have our generic questions we typically ask to kind of help break the ice or get things rolling, but once we start kind of getting, you know, especially the other person on the other side, you know, where they might not be comfortable, once they start to get comfortable, like tangents come out, and you know, and like you said, buddy, real thing, it doesn't even have to be comic based, real things come out. One of the actual things that I was going to mention earlier about you know, kind of sharpening the skills of creators is that, you know, there's, and we've said this on the show before, is there's something about deadlines that helps push the creativity within one individual. I mean, I know people who can be labeled as quote unquote procrastinators, that when that deadline is in place, that last week, man, it's like fire. And they put out quality work. Right? And they put out quality work, and it's because that's their process, and it's that deadline, it's that thing in their brain that says this is when it needs to be done, and all of a sudden the pieces start to work.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, that's how Riley's journey came out. You know?
Yeah, it's interesting in the community to see all the different types of people come together. Like, I'm the type of person that I plan everything to the last detail. And Buddy's like, okay, we got an idea, let's run with it. But between the two of us, I think he helps me to get started. And then I help him stay in one lane. And then we go to 7 lanes. And then we come back to the first. So it's all the different people doing all their different parts. And we're learning not only how to be a comic book team, but how to be a community and team. And so like each person helps everybody else learn. Maybe you're not so great in this part, but I am, so we can help each other out. And so it's a great learning experience that way. I love that our community can do that.
Absolutely. Awesome. I think you guys show that off in spades, clearly. I've always said that you know, when an individual is talented, sometimes you can work with blinders on. And when you present a piece of material, it's like when there's a good collaboration, individuals will fill in the gaps of creativity that's lacking in certain ways, or, you know, or improve upon and say, oh, hey, this works, but hey, let's do this. And then next thing you know, you got just this beautiful product. Now, that's usually on a, you know, 2-person team. Now, when you bring together a whole group of people, you can only imagine how immaculate that piece becomes in the end.
Oh yeah, definitely. And we should probably take a look at the anthology while we're here.
I was gonna say, let's bring up the page.
I downloaded it earlier so we could take a look at it.
Yeah, look at this.
Oh. Yes.
There it is.
Beautiful. I love it. Yes. So tell us about this cover. I love the cover here.
Go ahead, Chris. Tell them all about the cover.
Chris, tell us about the cover.
What's cool about this year is that we actually had a kind of like a cover competition almost.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had. I basically said that I wanted all the covers that anyone wanted to submit to come in, and we would make them be part of the anthology no matter what. So if you look at the cover, that's the main cover drawn by Bolu, and his art style is awesome. He was in the anthology, the Panel 1 anthology. It was a shame that he was too busy to join us for anything more than the cover for this anthology. But the fact that he got us the cover, it's got a great attitude to it. It really says a lot about what the anthology, the time in, the theme is. And he's just one of, I think there's 2 other covers or 3 other covers in the back of the anthology that, you know, they're just equally as good. They're all quality works. This was the one that we could fit, I believe, like the lettering, like the title for and everything, the best. So, yeah. But yeah,
big shout out to D to getting a full page.
Yeah, right.
I tried, man. I tried.
Buying that advertising ain't cheap. So to get a full page,
Listen, Buddy had to kick my behind to put that in there because I was like, no,
And I'm glad he
I don't need to
did.
be in there. It's fine. And he's like, put it in there. I was like,
Yeah,
okay.
good work, Buddy.
How perfect to have the intro by Brian Polito, because I mean, if you want to talk about highly successful indie guys, I mean, Brian Polito, is it his Kickstarters are do phenomenal numbers, right?
Yeah.
They make gangbusters.
Like,
They're
unbelievable.
They're off the charts.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
it's
the
insane.
guy is a master of crowdfunding, you know.
Oh yeah. Oh
big
yeah.
time.
Yeah,
So
we
yeah,
know
this
those
is
books.
cool. So is there any specific stories that you guys want to highlight? I mean, all of them, or or just any
Well, I
any that
did
stand
coloring
out?
for one of the flash fiction, and then I did 2 stories for A. Rubin's Mr. Stupendous.
Okay.
Chris, I think you have a flash fiction and a 8-pager, and then Kevin
An
has
8-pager.
a flash fiction.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Buddy
art
has
was done
a flash
by
fiction
Arts
as
Mermaid
well.
in the comments. So.
Don't forget about
Ariel.
Buddy's flash fiction.
Oh yeah, and Buddy's flash fiction with Andy. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Arts Mermaid, who's in the chat right now. She is my artist. Not only on Riley's journey, but on my 8-pager as well. So she's seen my 3 characters go through a mess of just like everything. So I want to give a big shout out to Arts Mermaid. She's really helping me
Ariel's
kick
awesome.
off those. Yeah.
Ariel's
Like,
been on the show before too. She was on for the last episode we did with you guys. I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah. So if we do get to talk about my story, like I'm gonna shout her out even
So
more.
I was gonna say another cool thing is that Jack. This is the story right here. Is by Jack Holder. Didn't he actually launch a whole series based off the short that was on the previous anthology? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, he has a whole
They're all in a
epic
shared
Kickstarter.
universe. Yeah, it's a shared universe. It's like he had a chapter of a character, Cameron and
there we go.
Lurkers or something from panel 1, and this is a story that's in the same world. And he just dropped him and Evan just finished a Kickstarter for another book that shared universe. And
Yeah,
they're
Legends
just-
of the Realm, I believe, right? The one that you just
yes.
had? Yeah,
I just picked it up, or I got in on that Kickstarter or whatnot. The quality on that book was amazing.
It is really nice.
Yeah, the printing is great. The art is great. The storytelling is awesome. So they
That's
really,
some beautiful artwork right there.
they blew up with something. This story is from our Australian. Jared Elvin. This guy, he's the writer and he's the artist on it. It's
He is
the
the
story in
sweetest
the last
freaking
one,
guy
right?
on the face of the
Yeah.
planet. He's just
Yeah.
awesome.
he's
I love
amazing.
the cartooning on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a direct sequel to his story that was in the first
The
anthology.
first one, yeah, I remember
And
this.
he kicked
guy
off
from
his
the first
webcomic
one.
based on these
Through line
characters.
there.
So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the Meat Bucket Mega Babes.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Yeah, this is great stuff. This guy's
Yeah,
awesome.
his cartooning is great. I mean, Jared helped us out with like everything, like graphics
Yeah,
for the
Jared's been
website.
doing a lot of the graphics that go on the website, and
Yeah.
all
Very
Yeah.
cool.
if
Yeah.
not all of our headers that for our Tuesday shows. So he just knocks them out.
Cool.
He's really, really good.
Yeah.
This is great. This is Chris's. This is one.
This is me.
Chris-
This is my flash fiction. I'd like to give a shout out to my father for this one. I always do because it's based on his IP.
Oh
This
wow.
is my dad's IP that I helped him kind of formulate the story for.
Okay.
And this is just a side story within that world, that shared world or whatnot.
Cool.
And he's
Look
actually
at that. That's awesome.
writing more of this
Yeah, that's very
for one of
cool.
my anthologies.
Oh, that's
for Tales
cool. That's
Yeah.
cool that you can work with your father on something like that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
very
great.
cool.
It's great.
That's
So-
priceless right there.
Yeah,
It is.
definitely. Yeah, this is great. I'm just scrolling through.
Mr.
I like
Stupendous.
this.
This is
great.
A. Rubin.
This is Ari's
Yeah,
piece,
this
right?
is Ari's
Yep.
piece.
Very
um,
cool.
It's just
And that cover was
wow.
by Arts Mermaid as well.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
She did the
Little
original
flash.
illustration
I
for.
forget what the issue number is that this is an homage to, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
great stuff.
This is one of my favorite stories, and I remember I was drooling for this story right when he dropped the script for it online, for like the criticism, the critiques or whatnot that the community can feedback for each other and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I remember reading it and just be like, this is going to be an amazing story as long as the art does everything it needs to do to complement it, and it did. Like everyone that he pulled together for this story. I mean, you've got the Golden Age, Silver Age. You've got the anime, the futuristic stuff. You've got the Rob Liefeld '90s look on a couple of pages.
He said he had like, I think, what was it, like 7 to 9 artists?
6 artists.
Oh,
yeah.
6 artists. 6 artists.
Yeah.
Like, look at the muscles in the pockets. Look at that.
Each did a different
Awesome.
time period, and I was just like, wow, that's insane. Just to even think about.
That's very cool.
That's fun. And also, I got to say, he pushed himself between the first anthology and this one, right?
It seems like
So he
because he didn't even have like
Buddy
a 1 or 2 page story in the first one or something.
Well, he did a Mr. Stupendous already, and then he's the one who introduced us to Flash Fiction, which is how he became the Flash Fiction editor for both anthologies.
He nominated himself.
Yeah.
So
he voluntold himself.
Is Flash Fiction just like
he had
a 1 page
challenged
story?
him to do an IP with Mr. Stupendous, or to continue the IP with Mr. Stupendous into this issue. And so he actually ended up thinking about it a lot and putting together the story of In the Clutches of Dr. Wen, which he hadn't planned on doing. He had a whole different sort of, time zone kind of, story. But he put this out instead, and I think we're all really happy with it.
So Keith, to your question, the Flash Fiction is like 1 to 2 pages.
Okay.
So it's just something super short.
Okay.
And that was the limit that we were given. So if we did a 1 page piece, we could have 1 picture. If we did 2 pages, we could have 2 pictures. But Dee and Chris can probably speak more and better to what I said, but that's kind of the gist of
that's pretty much it,
that project.
That's sort of a challenge, just like when you give like a comic creative team to do a 8 page story. It's like trying to find that beginning, middle, and end for a story in such a short space. That's a skill in of itself, I believe.
I've always said, and been told, start the story as far in as you can go. So once you have the conceived idea, go 10 steps ahead and then start it there.
Really? Never heard
of that.
This is smart. Yeah, that's actually good advice.
Really good.
Yeah, this anthology looks great. Everyone should go to this site, comicbookschool.com, and download your copy.
I was just going to say one more thing. If we go to the comic book, we'll say I'm a newbie. I want to get be a part of Comic Book School. I go to the website. Where do I have to go? Keith, can you pull up the website for us?
Yeah, definitely.
And then that way they can kind of just show us where to go. Like if I'm coming to the page for the first time and I want to get involved, what's the best thing to do, buddy?
Well, you should register for the message boards, which you can see there in the top link. Those are the free community-based message boards where we will have our conversations. And then if you were participating in the next challenge, you would see it up there in the top where you see 8-page challenge number 2. People are still communicating in there. In our main forums, we're having general conversation where you'll find other like-minded people talking about the topic of comic books, things that are going on in the industry. And I think that's the anchor to all of it. But then also, if you were to go back to the main comicbookschool.com website, you would see a registration for a newsletter. And that registration for the newsletter, they're not connected. They're 2 separate sites. You'd have to go back to the URL.
There we go.
You see the newsletter And I think the
Newsletter.
newsletter is where you would find useful information. If I see industry jobs, sometimes they're listed, sometimes they're insider referrals. It's inspiration. There are materials in there that will help you to understand how you can step up your craft or learn a little bit more about the business. And those are the two main areas where I would generally communicate. I do a little bit on social media, not a lot. I think, when it comes down to it, we really do try to encourage people, get out of the big mess of social media.
Yeah,
Don't.
that's a smart move.
It's a time suck, and going into a focused area where there's a lot of people talking positively and encouraging each other is really the best way for you to progress your career in comics. And even after you have made it, we hope that those people continue to come and contribute and then nurture and the next level of creators. We don't think of anybody as breaking in. We don't think of anybody as newbies. We just think of people as getting to their next level. And that's what everybody's going to be trying to do. If we think about people who have more experience, like Chris, he's just trying to get to the next level. Kevin, he was seeing his first published work. He's just getting to the next level. And we treat everybody with respect. I mean, that's the key thing.
Yeah, that's
I
huge.
love that. That completely lacks ego and elitism, and that just naturally helps promote inclusivity. And I absolutely love that about comic book school and the policies you guys have put into place there.
Yeah,
Very
kindness
simple.
matters, Johnny. And I think, you would know, I've known you, Johnny, for a long time. And, it's a relatively small business. And if you're a jerk, everybody knows it. Eventually things will
Yeah.
catch up with you. And kindness matters. And we treat each other the way we would expect to be treated in the workplace, because this is a workplace.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
it definitely matters, and it's cool how someone that is nice can leave a good impression, or like
Or the opposite.
or the opposite, exactly. Because I remember I was going to Buddy's panels for years, and I thought I was just one of those guys that was showing up at the panels, didn't really make too many waves or anything, and then the next year at Comic-Con, I think it was like 4 years ago. New York. I'm walking into New York Comic-Con on like day 2 or something, and Buddy's walking right next to me, and he says, "Hey, Chris," and I was like, "Oh my God, you know my name!" Oh, I was like, he just put his hand on me. I was like, "Bless me," but it was a great experience, because I was like, I'm glad I'm glad I was not a tool to anybody. That Buddy could remember me, but also at the same time, it's like, it's awesome that this guy who's an industry pro can actually remember me, and I helped him bring his stuff into his panel or whatnot from the entrance. But it's a great thing that it's like Buddy said, kindness matters, and learning faces and names and putting them all together like that. It's something that is a talent and a skill that I've had to learn. Because I'm not the best with names and faces. I'm really not.
Me either. I'll remember you, but like sometimes I don't remember names. Takes me about 10 times to meet you to remember the name.
We're swapping business cards at Buddy's Creator Connections. I'm that guy that invented the hold up your card next to your face and I'll take a picture.
Yeah.
This way I know who I'm emailing.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Actually,
Right?
it's a great idea.
That's smart. That's smart to do.
Yeah.
That method and the Josh Dahl. This is my business card. On the back of the business card, it says, "We talked about this," and he
Yes.
writes it
That's
down. And I'm like,
smart.
"That's genius."
That's smart.
Yeah.
Now a two-tone system.
I gotta
Yeah.
start
Say
taking notes about that.
We were joking around calling Buddy a mastermind. It's not far from the actual truth, but really, Buddy, it's leadership. I think, the things that you impart onto everybody in the comic book school, clearly it works and it resonates with them, and it helps them be the best creator that they can be.
I hope so.
There's a little side of this.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope people are getting something out of this. Johnny, one of the things that in Scott McCloud's book, He was explaining in one of the early books, or maybe it was the second book, this wonderful concept of why comics are so personal for all of us, because it requires us to be participants in the story. All other mediums, you have to lay back and allow the medium to wash over you, and there's no way to control it. And you read an X-Men story and you do Wolverine's voice in your head, and the snick sound is in your head, and you have to participate. And that's why this is such a unique industry, which is why it touches people. But you could imagine your neighborhood up and down the block, and you could picture how many people would read comics, and then of those people, how many of those people want to make comics. You really have to find each other, and really
Yeah.
the internet has made that possible. But going back to it, the internet is the ultimate time waster
Yeah.
if you let it.
It's like the-
I think we've just figured out a way as a group to say, let's just focus all of this energy. And we do hope that more people come and contribute. And Keith and Johnny, we hope you come to the message boards. It's fine to cross promote your YouTube shows. This is stuff that our community cares about. So
Yeah.
you come and you say, hey, we're going to be on, and here's our guests. That's great. We also tell people like, Chris, you want to start your own publishing imprint? Great, to do it. That's what this is here for.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I should join up, because I not only do this live streams, but I've been doing videos that people will probably get some benefit out of. I've been doing
This is getting
lettering.
awkward, Keith. You better tell us what those videos. I feel like
I've been doing,
medical
It's just
school.
Keith standing in front of a mirror going, "You're the star."
Yeah, these videos, and
I
if
do
you-
lettering tutorials on the channel. I've been doing. I just started doing convention setups.
4
and
days
things
ago,
like
you
that,
uploaded, how to exhibit at a convention.
Yeah,
that's
theater.
interesting.
just stuff
And
that
it's really cool.
I saw that one actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
did you really?
yeah.
Did you get something out of it? Did you?
I did, because honestly, like Buddy said, I am trying to break into comics because I've, recently lost my job thanks to COVID.
Sorry to hear that,
Sorry
man.
to hear
That's a
that,
problem.
man.
Because before I was working with Buddy and everything, I was helping teach therapeutic horseback riding to people in New York who have disabilities. You name it,
Really?
I probably know someone who has whatever disability. And that's actually where my two characters are from. I met them at my horseback riding stable here in New York City, out in Queens. And we kind of were joking around about we would have our own adventures and kind of thing. And we kind of turned it into a joke of someone needs to write this down and make a story out of it, because the sheer just stupidity that comes out of it was just comical.
Nice.
And I was like,
right,
okay,
what you know, right?
But how do I do that?
Yeah, right.
No one taught me how to write comics. I didn't know the first step. So I just started writing. And then when the anthology came around, I was like, yes, now I have an outlet to actually put this out there in the world so other people can understand it. And with Riley's journey, it also deals with anxiety fitting in, because if you go through it and you actually read, it's basically like a flashback to when he was younger, and Riley is actually me. I based Riley completely off of myself.
Gotcha.
So
Awesome.
I deal with anxiety. I've fallen off of horses. I've told myself I'm not fit for this world. I'm not fit to be a horseback rider. I can't do it. My two friends, in this case, we'll call them Charlie and Violet, they kind of helped show me like, no, dude, you are who you are. You are that horseback rider. You just don't know it yet.
I like
And
that.
then he, I don't know if you've read it or not, so I really don't want to spoil it. But, he finally, decides something that could change his life. And I've gone through that so many times in my journey. And so that's why I named it Riley's Journey, because that's what it was. It was kind of a coming of age, but also there's a lot of truth to it. So,
Oh, very cool.
So
No,
and I think.
Go ahead,
I'm
Johnny.
sorry, Keith. I was just going to say, I think your story might be a great example, and I haven't read it, unfortunately, but now I'm going to actively seek it out. I think when you, well, no, just based upon what you've told me, because, I connect with that a lot. I have a lot of anxiety as well. My ex-girlfriend can attest of the many nights I'm like, I think I'm dying. I can't breathe. Like, there's so much pressure going on. Like, we as creators, and I think if you come with a talent, you have self-doubt and conflict on your shoulder sometimes. There's a reason why great comedians are usually bridled with addictions or other issues, and that, I just feel like naturally talent comes with something extra baggage, and we all handle it in different ways. And some
Yeah.
people excel, some people it drags them down, but rarely, or not rarely, but I should say, it still doesn't prohibit their method to shine. Whether you are conflicted or not, you're talented, but you also may struggle with other things. And I think, Kevin, based upon the things you're telling me in your story, it feels like a little bit of that is kind of explored and shined upon, and I absolutely love that as well. I think other creators, kind of keep those things to themselves, and to share that and to let other creators know that, no, we all have issues with anxiety, or we all have something that comes with our creativity that kind of holds us back sometimes, that we struggle with. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. And I mean, also too, it's also coming from a Chinese American, which you don't see a lot of in
so it's like
comics.
a unique point of view as well on top of
Sure.
that, which is great.
And I mean, also too, like my three characters, we're not your typical cast of characters, because you have two Asian Americans, and I believe Charlie is Jewish, I want to say, but I'm not entirely sure. But like, you don't see that in typical American comics. You don't get to see that lens. And so that's why I found it really interesting to be like, oh, it's a Chinese American kid going through things that have been stigmatized in America. And I'm just like, oh, how is this going to be perceived by an audience who reads comics? And I fought with myself a lot before I finally bit the bullet and was like, I have to publish it and get it out there. Because when I decided to finally publish it, I told myself, this is garbage. This ain't going anywhere. But my editor, Chris, Ariel, everyone I worked with was like, no, you need to put this out. Like, you've done so much, but like, you need to put something out there. And then I finally was like, all right, let's see how this works out. And that's why, like, as someone who's done this for the first time, it's surreal, because it's like, it's out there. I'm putting my vulnerable self out there for other people to see, and I'm peeling back that curtain of like, yes, I deal with anxiety. I had anxiety about coming on tonight. You know,
And look at you, you're doing
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, you're
So-
doing great. Man.
you know, and
Glad to have you here.
but it's like, it's just that kind of like imposter syndrome of like, who am I really? You know,
Yeah.
and
So I feel like we could do a whole episode onto itself about cultural impact in creativity. I mean, I always cite
I'm
on
down to do that whenever you are.
Yeah.
well, I always cite on examples that my folks are great people. I love them to death, but they're also very blue collar in the sense that they work hard for a living, and that's kind of what they know. And making comics doesn't always make sense to them. They know it's my passion, but they don't understand it as something beyond just it's funny books. He's dabbling in funny books.
Yeah, my parents too. They don't.
Funny books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still get that too. Harry had a great point. 9 times out of 10, if you create something you hate, someone out there loves it. So I think that's true. So
Yeah.
One of the things I try to counterbalance that though is I always say write for yourself.
yes.
Write something that you would want to read, something that is for you and you alone, and then just put it out there. And if people like it, great. If they don't, it really wouldn't matter because you wrote it for yourself anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
I mean,
true, Johnny. It's a great
that's the
point.
same advice my editor gave me, because my original entry was supposed to be an 8-pager, and he got totally invested in the whole thing. And when I told him I had to pull the plug, he was like, "What? Like, why?" And I'm like, "I don't have the time."
Yeah.
But I also told him too at the same time, like, I started hating those characters because I had to do so many edits of those characters myself. But
you blame the characters.
Yeah.
Right?
oh,
Someone's got to take the blame, Keith.
Yeah.
literally, I blamed Riley for almost everything that happened in real life. And then I'm like, this dude's a fictional character. He has no basis in real life other than he's based off of me.
Yeah.
And that took a lot of like figuring out, because I'm also studying to be a social worker.
Oh, cool.
So a lot of these things came out of like, who am I? What is my identity in the world? And
Good.
it was just really funny to see like me hating a character that was based off of me.
That is
Yeah.
funny.
And
Yeah, right?
I was just like, this dude was created 6 months ago.
Yeah. that's
Well,
great.
there must have been some
Like-
catharsis for you along the way, though, right?
Yeah.
Oh
right.
no,
Yeah.
for sure.
Right.
For sure. Because I turned him into that horseback rider that I never came to grips with for
Gotcha.
myself. I turned him
That's what good
into
storytelling does,
the walking, breathing, eating, sleeping horseback rider. He thinks, acts, talks like a horseback rider. I hid that part of myself for a very, very, very long time. It was only 3 or 4 years ago I finally came to grips with, I am that horseback rider. But I made Riley into that. He talks, eats, breathes, loves horses to no end. He'll go to the ends of the earth to protect the animals that he loves. And it took me almost 20 years to realize that. And
That's
now
awesome.
I'm only coming to grips with that by putting these stories out.
I love that.
It's that tugging at the heartstrings kind of thing that's like, no, you are that person that you created your character to be. You just had to write it out to finally understand that.
Yeah.
And then I kind of sat back and was like, holy,
It was like a revelation, right? Like,
oh, for
Yeah.
sure. And then I was like, I got to put this project off to the side because I'm getting way too emotionally attached to these characters.
That's awesome.
I
though.
always,
You know?
I
I
always,
love that.
another thing I always try to say is that when you have a great idea and you're hot on it, You write out as much as you can on it, and then just kind of put it aside for a minute. If you can step away and come back to that project, and you're still just as hot on it, you got something good. If you come back and it's cold, it's cold as ice, then maybe you did yourself a favor walking away. It's like when you tell like a funny joke that you have with a friend. It's an inside joke. It's funny to you guys, and you walk away and you try to tell that joke again, and you're like, didn't land. It's not the same. Yeah. There's something special about it at the time, but it wasn't meant for the big thing. I feel like stories and comic ideas and things like that are kind of on the same wavelength.
Definitely.
One of the things that Buddy always says is, if you really want to make something good, do it 10 times, right? Because you're going to do the first couple, and every time you do it, every time you finish it and get it done and put it out there, you're going to learn something, and you're going to improve that much more on the next one. So by the time you get to number 10, 11, you've really got the good thing going. And so the more we do Anthology, and the more we bring more new people in to keep doing these and keep trying out ideas and keep pushing, the IPs we already have or new IPs, hot ideas, cold ideas, the more we can improve. And as a community, we learn from each other. So the more you improve, the more I improve, the more we can improve everyone.
And that was Buddy's point right from the beginning. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Notice how it all comes full circle.
It comes full circle.
That's the mastermind.
Which is perfect, because we've been going 90 minutes, if you guys can believe that. It's crazy,
We have a tendency to chat a long time.
We really do. We had a great discussion about just everything. So as we start to wrap up, I'd love to go around the room and find out where people can reach you guys, follow you on social media, and that kind of thing. Maybe we can start with we'll start this way. Maybe Kevin. Start with Kevin. Kevin, is there a place that you post a lot, or are you on Facebook? Or
where can we
Twitter,
find you, Kevin?
I am on social media. I just don't have the time for it.
Okay,
unfortunately. So I'm more of that lurker.
Okay. So would you say the forums maybe at Comic Book School is a good place to talk with you? And
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if anything, I can send something to someone, and but basically, if you just look up my name, Kevin Pei, Pei.
Okay.
In social media, it'll either pop up with Kevin PS41 or KPay136 or KPay137.
Okay.
Somewhere in that amalgamation of yeah.
All right. So how about you, Chris? Where can people find you?
People can find me at talesbeyond.com. That's my website. You can find me on Instagram at talesbeyond. Facebook Tales Beyond. For Twitter, I've got to wake up my Twitter. I gotta work on it, because it's actually really hard to hold.
Put to sleep permanently.
Yeah, it's just
we all
really
have
hard.
That negligent platform for me.
And that's it.
I'm all in on
With
Twitter,
me, it's
right?
Instagram. And,
for me, it's Twitter. So Twitter, it's Live Tales Beyond. But if you want to get a little bit more in my mind and what I'm actually following on Twitter, maybe Jiggy KB, which is also my gamer handle, if you guys want to play me on PS4 or something.
Nice.
But yeah, that's me.
Awesome.
Amen.
How about you, D?
So the best place to find me is actually the Comic Book School forums. I do get on there quite often. I was off for a little while after Comic-Con, just taking a break from screens in my life, but that's where I'll be if you need me. But I'm also on Twitter at Redheaded Ed. And you can find me on Facebook at D spelled with 2 E's, because they wouldn't let me put an individual letter. So, but I'm always around Comic Book School. You can come over to the YouTube channel, and I'm usually on there too. So
awesome. Yeah, I'll have to sub to the channel if I haven't already, and just give you guys another sub. Yeah, definitely. I'll have to check out some of the content on
love
there.
to have you.
You're not subscribed already, Keith? I gotta go.
I think I am.
Throw the table.
That's it. I'm out of here.
Yeah. How about you, buddy?
Keith, real quick. If you find a dead horse in your bed.
I know.
Yeah.
It's all over.
Sorry, Kevin. So sorry.
Yeah. Take the jab at the horse back, Tyler.
Come on, Chris.
See what happens, Chris.
Ixnay on the horse head. Hey.
See what happens, Chris. I know where to find
It's
you.
a reference. It's a reference. We're all friends here.
So you can find me at sensitivity
Spicy
training
right
with Chris Burgos tomorrow night.
Oh, that's great.
So you can find me where you find D. Alley and all the other
Comic
awesome
books.
editors and creators on the Comic Book School message boards. I live there. I've always wanted a place to go, talk about comics. It's not like Facebook where they'll just randomly close things down.
Yeah.
Conversation is clean. The conversation's professional. It's where you'll find me. I do also on all places you'll see my handle at Comic Book School, and obviously I'll look forward to seeing people in person when the time allows. I'm in the New York, New Jersey area, and thank you so much for having us on. It was a real treat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was
definitely.
fun.
It's great seeing you guys again and catching up.
For sure.
Also, has work started on the third anthology yet, or are you guys?
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, I don't even want to
Dee's
think
like,
about
nope,
that, right?
nope,
Yeah.
nope.
She's got anxiety.
we're-
You just triggered her.
We're gonna start the third anthology, I think, in January. Is
Gotcha.
what the consensus
Don't
is.
start
See,
throwing
I'll
out.
send
Don't
you a
start throwing
bottle
out
of
Don't start throwing out
dates.
dates, Kevin. Don't start throwing out dates.
Devin, don't start throwing
I
out
mean,
So
Guys,
I
trying to
told-
get you
I
guys
told the
moving,
crew that
you
I was
know?
taking an entire month off after the anthology, so I
Think
get
about
to
the horses,
November
Kevin.
2nd
Think about the
before
horses.
people can start asking me about it again. So just a couple more days, guys. Just a couple more days.
You know,
We'll
every
be
time-
putting
every
through
time-
together, and we'll put all that stuff out in the newsletter and on the forums. So as soon as we know, you.
Yeah, anytime I work on a project that's big, it could be anything, a big comic, a photo reference book, an anthology of this nature. I tell my wife, remind me how miserable I am when I
Yeah,
decide I'm
right,
going to do it
yeah.
again. And she was like, you were supposed to do the same thing after we had our first child, because she was miserable. And then she was like, we're never doing this again. I'm like, we're never doing this again. And now we have 2 kids. So
Yeah.
you do it because you forget the pain and you remember that you love that child. And I think
Yeah.
that's really what you get
Yep.
out of this is we love
Hey.
this child.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's true.
I say I'm never going to drink again when I drink too much. And
Yeah, I
you
was just
know,
about to say that.
I
Yeah.
drink too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we closed
Awesome.
down twins twice this year, Johnny.
Twice.
So we're doing
twice.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did pretty good for ourselves.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's Twins the pub, right?
Yeah, right.
Twins the
Yeah.
pub.
I wasn't sure if there was
Not that any twins. We were at
that
the
was
pub.
involved.
No,
I don't know.
we
We're in the back of a limo
at
with
the
some
pub,
twins. You
but-
mean a twins pub? No, literally in a limo with some twins.
Awesome. How about you, Johnny? Anything going on in your neck of the woods as
So
we
all
close
I
out?
really want to say is thank you, Buddy. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Kevin, for coming on, for sharing all of your stories with us, for sharing the anthology with you, for sharing comic book school community with us. You know, we're so grateful to have you on. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. The only other thing I could say is look for me in the audience on AEW Rampage tomorrow night.
Nice.
I'll be 4th row back. You can't miss me.
Nice. You'll have to pull a screen, still
I'll
screen
do a
of it
screenshot.
and
Yeah.
share it on
Please.
Facebook, and then draw like an arrow pointing down to where you are.
There
you know?
I am.
Magnify.
Awesome. Yeah, and I also too want to thank you guys for joining us. Definitely go to comicbookschool.com, get the newsletter, sign up for the forums, and if you are dragging your feet about, being part of comics and want to do something, this is the way to do it with
Killer
a
opportunity.
community of people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely check that out. All right, and then with me, just once again, check out the Alterna fall campaign, Indiegogo. Back that, support indie creators, and the books go directly to you. You don't even have to go to the store for them, which is awesome, So good way to do it, So, all right, guys, we're gonna end this episode, and we and Johnny will be back next Wednesday at our regular time. Until then, have a great week, have a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon. Good night.